This winter just took a serious turn as life-threatening cold has arrived across much of the country. But a dramatic weather pattern change is lining up for later this week that will change everything. Over the next 72 hours, dangerous cold will be a huge concern across the Midwest and Ohio Valley, with temperatures falling to as low as 20 degrees below zero and wind chills dropping to 40 degrees below zero. These conditions are dangerous for anyone outdoors and can quickly become life-threatening without proper precautions protection. But a very unusual weather pattern is developing right now that's going to flip the script later this week. Temperatures could surge by as much as 60 to 80 degrees in some areas, bringing a dramatic and long-lasting warm-up just days before Christmas. This is a setup that raises concerns about rapid snowmelt and runoff. This pattern shift will also open the door for more large storms before Christmas. Flooding rains are expected to hammer the Pacific Northwest over the next few days, where already swollen rivers in Washington could approach catastrophic levels. Farther east, the active pattern may reload snow chances across the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and the Northeast later this week. So in today's forecast, we are going to break down exactly what you need to know about this dramatic weather pattern change that is about to unfold. And before we talk more about the weather pattern change that is coming, I do want to talk about the snow that we've seen over the last 24 hours. And our forecast on this channel was actually very accurate. We actually ended up overperforming in many areas here across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. The highest snowfall accumulation number that has been reported so far was in Tilton, Illinois, just a little over 8 inches of snow. But a widespread 3 to 7 inches of snow fell here all across the Midwest. We had widespread 6 to 8 inches snowfall across areas in central Illinois. So generally speaking, it was a big snowfall event yesterday. What's even crazier is that Indianapolis has had its second snowiest start to winter on record. That dates back to 1884. So really crazy start to winter already across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. And though this winter storm is winding down, it is still snowing this morning in southern New England and even across areas like New York City back into Virginia. This will continue through about lunchtime today, and then most of you guys will not be seeing any more snowfall after lunchtime. However, if you're watching the Patriots and Bills game, it will be snowing there to start that game back over in southeastern Massachusetts. Cape Cod will continue to see some light to moderate snow through about 3 to 4 o'clock. And then a little bit of lake effect snow near Lake Erie. And then as we go into Monday, another shot of snow is possible here across the Northeast, but it should be mainly light snow. But again, areas like New York City and even Washington, D.C. are seeing snowfall, which is not something that we've seen very much of over the last few winters. Across the Northeast, we are still expecting a pretty decent amount of snowfall here over the next several hours. This does include what has already fallen this morning and what is to come through about lunchtime. Most areas in southern New England back into Washington, D.C. and New York City will pick up around 2 to 4 inches of snow, but plenty of locations, including New York City, Long Island, back into southeastern Pennsylvania, we will have some areas around 5 to 6 inches of snow. Now, over the next few days, we are going to see a major weather pattern change take place across the United States. And this is really going to change the rest of this December across the country. So let's talk more about it by talking about our jet stream. These are your upper-level winds that are controlling our weather pattern. Right now, we have a big dip in our jet stream across the Midwest that is ushering in all of that dangerous Arctic air to the Midwest this morning, also back into the Ohio Valley and through the Northeast. Tomorrow, that jet stream dip is going to make its way towards the East Coast, which means if you are anywhere in Virginia, the Carolinas, even back into Florida and Georgia, you will be feeling the effects of this Arctic blast late Sunday into early Monday. Eventually by Tuesday and Wednesday, we are going to be continuing to watch for very strong northwesterly flow across the Northeast and even parts of the Ohio Valley. This is going to keep things relatively cold over here, but what's interesting is what's happening behind that. We are going to start to see a large ridge develop across the Great Plains and even in the desert southwest. And this is going to lead to a major swing of our temperatures. We are talking about a 60 to 80 degree increase in temperatures over just a couple of days in a lot of places. In areas like Nebraska, the Dakotas, back even into the Midwest. Which means if you have any snow on the ground right now in Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, definitely enjoy it while it lasts. Because there will at least be a couple of days next week that we are going to see melting. And it might be very rapid. By around Wednesday and Thursday, our jet stream is going to continue to stay very lifted off to the north. But while this is happening, we are going to have a ton of moisture over in the Pacific Northwest making its way over the Rockies. And when that happens, we are likely going to see at least one, if not maybe two different winter storms by around the end of this week and into next weekend. So that is going to be something to keep an eye on. I don't think we're going to see as severe of an Arctic blast as what we saw over here over the last couple of days, but we will likely at least see some Arctic air back over in the Midwest and the Northern Plains Friday and Saturday. And eventually, once we get closer to Christmas, things get a little bit more uncertain. As of right now, the GFS model is promoting a pretty calm weather pattern right around Christmas, but that could always change as it is still 10 days away. Now, most of you this morning are absolutely freezing, especially in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. We currently have temperatures right around 40 to 45 degrees below average, including Minneapolis, Chicago, back into Springfield, Illinois, and even back over in Indianapolis. But it's going to change, okay? This is not going to last forever. It's only about a 2-day Arctic blast or so for most of you. Because by Monday and Tuesday, a lot of that Arctic air is going to make its way over to the East Coast. For Monday morning, we'll have some pretty severe cold centered across Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois. And then along the East Coast, temperatures will be right around 10 to 15 degrees below average. That'll linger through about Tuesday, but notice all that warm air back along the West Coast. That is going to be making its way over the Rocky Mountains on Tuesday, and then by Wednesday and Thursday, a lot of you are going to feel this big warm-up across the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and even the East Coast. So this is what it looks like by Tuesday afternoon. Most areas in the central and northern plains will be right around 20 to 30 degrees above average. Many of you will reach above freezing on Tuesday, but if you don't reach it Tuesday, Wednesday is a little bit more likely, especially back over in the Dakotas, Nebraska, even back over in Illinois and parts of the Ohio Valley will be right around average. Average, which means some of you will try to reach above freezing Thursday. Those forecasts would be the warmest day of the entire week as we are expecting a widespread area here in the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley and back into the Mid-South where we will be having areas around 10 to 20 degrees above average, which means that if you're over here in areas like Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, we already have a lot of snow on the ground. A lot of that is going to try to melt on Thursday. Another thing that's crazy is that Thursday afternoon, we could actually have some strong to possibly severe storms back over in the Ohio Valley. So talk about a complete flip of the switch here. Back over in the Ohio Valley. And eventually by Friday, another Arctic blast will make its way across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. This is, again, not going to be nearly as widespread as our last Arctic blast that has been happening really just over the last 48 hours. But there will be a cold front that will make its way across the Ohio Valley and also the East Coast. Temperatures will drop by around 10 to 15 degrees. And then by Saturday and Sunday, we will continue to have very warm temperatures back over in the southern plains and the Mississippi Valley. We could even be approaching records Saturday afternoon in Arkansas, Texas, and even back into Kentucky. And then once we approach Christmas, things get a little bit more uncertain. But as of right now, it does look like that we will be talking about torch moss for much of the country with above average temperatures likely all across the Great Plains, Midwest, Ohio Valley, and back into the desert Southwest. Now let's talk more about exactly how cold or warm it's going to be over the next 7 days, beginning with this morning, and it is absolutely terrible in the Midwest this morning. Many areas, including Minneapolis, are right around 20 degrees below zero. Even Chicago is right around 0 degrees. This afternoon, we will really not be talking about high temperatures. These are basically low temperatures across the Midwest. Many areas barely getting into the single digits, including Minneapolis and also Milwaukee. Eventually tomorrow, we'll start to see a little bit of an increase in temperatures in the Midwest, but our freezing line is going to dive all the way to the Gulf Coast. Areas like northern Florida will actually drop below freezing Monday morning. Eventually by Tuesday and Wednesday, that is when our warm-up is going to start to make its way into the United States, back over Nebraska, Kansas, and even Texas. We'll have many areas in the 60s and 70s. Wednesday will be a little bit warmer if you're back over in southern Illinois or western Kentucky. If you have any snow on the ground there, it is definitely going to melt pretty quickly. And then Thursday is going to be the day of very warm weather back over in the Ohio Valley and the Mississippi Valley. These are the temperatures right around 9 in the morning on Thursday, and many areas in Illinois, including Indianapolis, even over in Indiana will be right around or above 50 degrees, which means snow is going to melt very quickly. Now those warm temperatures are not going to last all day because we will have a line of showers and thunderstorms making their way across this area, which means temperatures are going to drop on the backside of that line. But generally speaking, it will be above freezing for around 36 to 48 hours back over in Illinois and Indiana. So some good news if you don't want all that snow on the ground. But by about Friday and Saturday, we're going to have that Arctic air make its way back in. Any sort of snow that is on the roadways could refreeze into ice. So that is something to keep in mind on Friday with temperatures dropping below freezing. And then Friday and Saturday, it will remain pretty warm here across the southern plains. Many areas in Texas will reach the 80s on Saturday. And then by around Sunday and Monday of next week, things get a little bit more uncertain. But really, the big trend right now is that if you're back over in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, or Northeast, we will continue to stay below average. And then anywhere along the Gulf Coast, even into areas like Nebraska and back into the Rockies, that is where above average temperatures are likely for the next 7 to 10 days. And we all can wave winter bye-bye. If you're back over in the southern plains of the Southeast, Cloud Prediction Center between December 21st and 27th is forecasting above average temperatures all across the United States unless you're in the Pacific Northwest or in the extreme northern periphery of the country. That's North Dakota, Minnesota back into New England. Again, a very warm stretch of weather is ahead, so get your winter jackets back in the closet if you're back over in Texas and Oklahoma. You will not need them for a little while. Now let's talk more about the rain and snow that is coming over the next 7 days. And I do want to begin with what is happening in the Pacific Northwest over the next couple of days. This is really going to be the big story. I think all week long areas like Washington and Oregon are going to be getting absolutely hammered by extremely heavy rainfall. And this is going to be coming over a multi-day stretch. There are a lot of rivers in western Washington that are already at major flood level or at least have been over the last several days. That is only going to get worse this week because we have a multi-day rain event that's coming from a very strong atmospheric river. Now, obviously with atmospheric river events, we've talked about this in previous videos. A lot of the time that moisture will actually go over the Rockies, and in some cases we can get big winter storms in the United States. However, most of the moisture for the next 5 days or so will actually be going a bit further to the north, which means that if you're over in Canada, you're going to luck out on some snow. But over in the United States, there's not going to be much in the way of that. By Wednesday, we're going to continue to see some very heavy snow and rain across the Pacific Northwest. I think Tuesday night into early Wednesday will be the worst day in Washington and Oregon for heavy rainfall, mudslides, all that stuff. By late Wednesday and early Thursday, a very intense low-pressure system will form over the northern Rockies into southern Canada. Winter storm conditions are likely in parts of southern Canada, and this could actually bring a little bit of winter storm conditions to the upper Midwest and the northern plains by Thursday. And then strong to even isolated severe storms are on the table in the Ohio Valley on Thursday. I would not rule out some isolated damaging winds. Other than that, though, I'm not expecting much of a tornado risk. And then by the time we go into Friday, this storm system makes its way into the northeast. Snow is mainly in Canada. Lots of rain across New England. Again, not expecting much snow, though, in New England out of that event. And then by late Friday and Saturday, more moisture is going to come over the Rockies and try to create another storm system by Saturday and Sunday. Not sure how intense this storm is going to be at this time, but snow is on the table back over in the Midwest and the Great Lakes, and maybe another round of showers and even thunderstorms back over in the Ohio Valley late Saturday and Sunday. And then fast forwarding to Christmas, we again do not know what's going to happen on Christmas Day in terms of precipitation, but I do think there will at least be some moisture in the United States to the point where there's going to be somebody that sees snow on Christmas Day. At the bare minimum, though, we should still have a white Christmas for most of the Midwest and the northern plains as temperatures will remain below average.